Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Okay, so here we have the spammiest shield pressure in the Holiday Cup. I don't know how to promote it. It's flat. It shocks you. If you step on it, you're probably gonna get electrocuted. It has many names. The Pancake. The Bear Trap is its cousin. I have no idea. It's called Stunfisk, okay? I have no idea to hype this thing up. It literally changed the meta upon its release as it broke the Altaria Azu core like a monster. Actually, it broke the BBML of Season 1. This is the core breaker of the meta of Season 1, and it's actually really good in the Holiday Cup. It makes its return as one of the most shocking shield breakers in all of Holiday. So as you see here, it's a ground and electric type. With this combination means ironically, because it's an electric type, it's also weak to ground, and it's a ground and electric type, so it's really weird. Anyways, this is a particularly thick pancake, so Stunfisk is really cool because it's really bulky, and because of its bulk plus its fast charging moveset, it's actually able to spam a ton of charge moves like relentlessly. If your shields are down and this thing has energy advantage, you could probably expect a few mud bombs or a few discharges coming your way. As you see here, as I mentioned, because you are a ground type, electric type, even though you're electric / ground, you're actually weak to ground. You're also weak to grass, ice, and water. So your weaknesses are pretty prevalent here. However, because you carry discharge, you can actually take out those water types. So water and ice type hybrids are taken out by discharge. Ground types, you can do ground coverage for them, but you generally outpace a lot of other Pokemon that do have ground type attacks. And like Alolan Marowak's Bone Club, it takes 12 moves for them to get to a Bone Club, and it only takes, I think, 2, 4, 6. It doesn't take very long for you to get to a Mud Shot. As you see here, this Pancake is the hardest wall to electric types. You are able to actually triple resist electric, so if you're able to lock this into another Pancake and you actually have Mud Shot but they have discharge, you're in luck because you actually beat them. You also resist flying, poison, rock, and steel, so it has a lot of resistances. Flying is very prominent in this meta. Rock is also a thing with those rock blasts from those Alolan Gravelers or those rock blasts from Alolan Golems. Also steel type, so those mirror shots from Magnezone or those magnet bombs from Magneton aren't going to do much against you. So it's going to be this is a very tanky and a very viable mon for Holiday Cup. Combine it with Mud Shot and Thunder Shock, 2 turn moves that generate 9 energy each, the 2 fastest moves of their element. And with Discharge, Mud Bomb, and Muddy Water, you have a monster of a Pancake. This thing literally shoots down your shields like no tomorrow. And like I said, if you got energy advantage, you save it with shields. They got something in the back. Even if they're neutral to it, you're going to take them out. It's going to do a lot of damage. Alright, so for this method, okay, so for Stunfisk, here's the PPoke.com rankings. I don't actually have to scroll down that much. If you see down here, it's actually in the top 15. As you see, Galarian Stunfisk is very powerful as a lead and closer. Not that bad as a switch, especially if you throw it into an Alolan Marowak or a Skarmory. They lose the lead, they throw AWAC, Skarmory, Obstagoon, Alolan Graveler as a safe switch, or Galvantula, you actually go to town. So, well, Obstagoon's a little bit close of a matchup, but like I mentioned, it's doable. So as you see, it's a very powerful charger and attacker. It literally has 80s across the board except for the switch. But as you see, it spams a lot. With Thunder Shock, Mud Bomb, and Discharge, you're going to let off a lot of fast moves. And because of that, it's incredibly powerful. As the lead, it actually serves as... This is where I'm probably going to have to start using Searcher. Number 14. So it's top 15 lead, taking out what I mentioned before. You are weak to Vigoroth, Altaria, Wigglytuff, Diggers being Dugong. Now, the problem with ground, you are weak to ice. So some Pokemon like Dugong, unless their shields are down and they're able to debuff you, you're not going to have a great time. But you can take out Dugong in certain scenarios. You can also take out Altaria in certain scenarios. Now, Charmers are probably going to suck the most. Vigoroth, this is a close rating right here, so Vigoroth's probably going to take you down. So Vigoroth can outspam you, it also wins CMP, and Wigglytuff charms you down. As a closer, Stunfisk is the number 27, taking out things like Skarmory, Obstagoon, Altaria. See what I mean? You could actually take out Altaria in the closer. Galarian, Alolan Graveler, and Galvantula. So there is a way, it does have some ways out. As a switch, it's able to take out same things what I mentioned before. As a charger, it's incredibly powerful, ranking at number 39. However, it's able to take out a lot of relevant meta picks. Surprisingly, it's very, very powerful. Same thing with an attacker. As an attacker, Galarian Stunfisk is actually in the top 10. It can actually take out others because of its ground type, because of its ability to shoot Mud Bomb. It's able to take out other electric types and take out Alolan Graveler. So it's kind of the anti-electric to the electric Pokemon, which is, even though it's an electric type itself. So it's really weird. Really weird. All right. So my favorite part is always, as I always say, is the ppoke.com matrix. Again, if you'd like to donate, like I always say, please consider donating ppoke.com if you would like. Now, as you see here, we got Stunfisk. I put the Mudshot and the Thundershock variation. So the preferred variation you want is the Thundershock one. The reason being is Thundershock does neutral damage, and Mudshot does get resisted by the flyers. So that's why you want Thundershock. So here's the Holiday Cup meta right here. You have the two shields right here. Those are the two movesets we're looking at. As you see here, we're already right here. So this is the reason you want Thundershock, because versus the flyers. If you don't have Thundershock, you lose against Drifblim. So you need Thundershock. Thundershock, as you see here, you're still going to lose against things like Altaria, Abomasnow, Dugong, Frostless, just because you're going to get outpaced. So the thing about this is your opponent's going to have to burn both their shields or they die. Particularly against Frostless. So as you see here, you won't probably get switch, but you will get shields. As you see here, it's going to take 2 avalanches to kill you because you're so bulky. So you're going to come at this with a lot of matchups. So Stunfisk can't actually beat Frostless in the 2 shield. As you see here, Frostless can't. Frostless just does so much damage, so just be careful. You can get it to like the closing scenario. As you see here, you do win in the 2 shield or in the 2-1. So you need 2 shields to take on Frostless. Otherwise, an Avalanche can one-shot you. As you see, you beat Galvantula just because you are able to resist its Volt Switches. Graveler, Lantern, both versions of Lantern, even if it has Water Gun. You lose against Lapras just because you are weak to ice and water. Those surfs will get to you. So Lapras and Dugong are thick in the 2 shield scenario. And unfortunately, you don't outpace. And unfortunately, you just don't do enough damage. You do beat Magnezone. You do beat Magnabuzz. You also beat Alolan Marowak. Now, in the 2 shield, as I mentioned, you can lose against Obstagoon and Vigoroth because 1, they win CMP. And 2, you just take way too much damage, unfortunately. You do take out Skarmory, you do take out Snorlax, and of course, if you had Mudshot, you actually win the mirror. So, however, Thundershock Drifblims are pretty relevant, so I would definitely recommend you have Thundershock. The 1 shield, things kind of change a bit. So the 2 shield, as you see, things are very, very spammy. You're able to take shields, and you win against a lot of the flyers, as well as a lot of the electric types. So flyers, electric types. The 1 shield things get interesting. So in the 1 shield, you will lose against Lantern with Water Gun if you don't have Mudshot, unfortunately. So be careful of that. It's a really close matchup though. So as long as Lantern has chip damage, you can actually take that match. Again, you're gonna win again. You're gonna lose unless you're on the mirror. As you see here, you beat Obstagoon in the 1 shield, but this is what's iffy. It's a really close matchup when it comes to Obstagoon or Vigoroth. Be careful because if you have a little bit of chip damage on you, you won't win in the 1 shield. So yes, you win, but it just depends. It depends on how much damage you have, and it depends on how much damage Obstagoon has. Same thing with Vigoroth. And in the 1 shield, you also lose against the Charmer, so you can get charmed down. In the zeros, things get interesting. So Stunfisk, as you see here, it's mainly for the flyers, the electric types. However, it's also incredibly spammy. If it has shields and energy advantage, it does incredibly well, and you'll see shortly. In the closer, it gets really interesting. So in the closer, you beat Altaria, which is a big matchup to flip in the closer. You're also able to take out Drifblim, Galvantula. You lose against Lantern with Water Gun convincingly, but that's okay. You also lose against Alolan Marowak now. However, it's a very close rating. If you do have Mudshot, however, you do take it down. As you see, Mudshot is able to take down the mirror and has a better matchup against Alolan Marowak. So both versions actually work out pretty well. Unfortunately, you will lose against Vigoroth because you will unfortunately get body slammed to death. You will be Obstagoon convincingly in the closer though. So it does have some ups and downs, but again, you can run both movesets. In my opinion, you want to run Thundershock because that fire coverage, and beating Altaria is pretty huge because you see it a lot. Alright, so now we have the one shield. Well, the 1-0 to be exact. So the 1-0, if you have shield advantage, you do very well against a lot of the meta. Now, you have to be careful because whatever resists you, for example, Diggersby or Abomasnow, you're going to have a hard time against. As you see in the 1-0s, the Frostless matchup is really close. So as long as Frostless has chip damage, you can shield the Avalanche and take it out. So as you see, you beat a lot of the meta, however, in the one shield. You'll beat Lapras, you also beat Dugong and Altaria with a Thundershock variation. You beat him with... Yeah, well, you lose with Dugong, unless you have Thundershock. So, Thundershock's definitely preferred. As you see, if you have shield advantage, you beat Stunfisk. You also beat Talonflame, Vigoroth. You beat a large majority for the 1-0s, and you even beat Wigglytuff. So, 1-0 is very powerful. 2-0s, you're going to shock a lot of things. You still lose against Abomasnow, and you'll still lose against Diggersby. However, you beat the rest of the meta in the 2-0s, except the 2-0s, except for Whimsicott. So Whimsicott is the Charmer that will actually be a hard wall to you. I haven't seen many Whimsicotts, but if you do, as you see here, Whimsicott does hard wall you. I haven't seen many, so I wouldn't worry too much about this matchup. You do beat Wigglytuff, however, in the 2-0s. The 2-1s are probably the situation you're going to see the most, or is probably the most beneficial for you, and probably the scenario you'll likely see. So you will lose against Dugong, unfortunately, Diggersby, and Abomasnow, but you beat a majority of the meta. However, here's the problem. You also lose against Wigglytuff. The only scenarios you win against Charmers, if you encounter or get locked into them, are the 1-0s or the 2-0s. Other than that, you lose every other scenario just because Stunfisk can't take Charmers. Stunfisk's biggest flaw is what I'll say in the technical summary, but as you see here, Charmers are kind of your worst nightmare, and you need to have a lot of shields to take them out. Other than that, you put a lot of pressure on the rest of the meta. If you have shield advantage, as you see here, you take out meta-relevant things such as Frostless as well as Alolan Marowak. So, Alolan Marowak, Skarmory, etc., you do get hard-walled by some picks, which kind of limits in effectiveness. However, Stunfisk in general is a very powerful spammer. As you see here, these are very powerful ratings across the board. Driftblim, Galvantula, etc. So 500, so 556. The closest one you'll probably see is Lantern, but other than that, every other matchup is like 600-700 just because you have you outpace so many things. Important thing too is you also beat the fighters. But yeah, be careful of Charmers. So if I had to give Stunfisk a rating, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. Stunfisk is very powerful, it's very spammy, it also gives an insane amount of shield pressure. However, you kind of have to be careful of Charmers. So the one request, Stunfisk works very well. You'll see it a lot. I've seen it a lot in Holiday Cup so far, and it's because it does a lot of damage. It's able to spam and outpace a lot of the meta, and it actually has moves that actually do super effective damage against a lot of the meta. For example, i.e. Graveler, A-Graveler, what else? A-Graveler, let's see, Skarmory, etc. It beats out other electric types, and it has outs in many scenarios. However, you can get hardwalled by things like Diggersby and Abomasnow, just because it resists both Mud Bomb and Discharge. So you have to kind of be careful about what you're facing. I don't see a lot of Abomasnows and everything like that, so I don't see a lot of Stunfisk hard resistances, but you have to definitely be careful. In the mirror, whoever has energy advantage will win. If they have Mudshot, they will win the mirror match. So Stunfisk is very powerful for the fact that it could take out, it could even take out Altaria, and it has an answer against a lot of its weaknesses. However, Stunfisk, even though it's able, if you give it shields, you give it energy advantage, Stunfisk will spam down your opponent. It is, even though, the problem with it is, even though it's really thick, and even though, yeah, it's pretty thick, and it's very spammy, its low attack does give it a liability, because it doesn't do a lot of damage in some scenarios. That's why it loses against Vigoroth. The reason why you lose against Vigoroth is because Vigoroth does more damage than you in Body Slam, and it also wins CMP. Stunfisk's weakness is that even though it's really spammy, its attack is pretty low. So bulk makes up for it in certain scenarios. However, because of that, you lose the 2 shields against things like Frostless. So if you guys decide to use it, it's still really good. Don't get me wrong. If you manage energy very expertly, it actually does a lot of damage in the Holiday Cup. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets. Stunfisk is incredibly spammy and puts a lot of shield pressure, especially if you lock it against something that you have a positive lead against, and you can play a lot. You could do a lot of plays with it. Again, good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I'll see you on the next video.